So as I was saying, PrintoCent is an industry cluster. It has over 40 company members, from startups to large corporations. It has existed for about 12 years now. And although it is based in Finland, it is an international-minded network, as you can see here as well. I strongly encourage you to go to PrintoCent's website and check out more information about the ecosystem. They have great resources as well, such as a handbook for anyone who is looking into more information about this space. Okay, so we have a very diverse group of speakers today that will be able to bring very different perspectives of what's happening with printed electronics at different levels. So we'll have the perspective of the European Commission. The director of PrintoCent will tell us a little bit about key findings that PrintoCent is getting to on the roadmap they are putting together. We'll also have an investor perspective, understand why startups are joining PrintoCent, and how the need for qualified human resources is really being addressed also within this community. Before we jump to the presentations, just a few housekeeping matters. We will be recording this webinar and it will be made available on demand on, again, PrintoCent's YouTube channel. So you can, if you miss something, you can view it again on YouTube. So we'll also be running a live Q&A during this Zoom. So we have activated the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please type in your questions during the webinar. So we will attempt to actually answer the questions as they come in writing, type them in, and you can address them to each one of the speakers, and we'll try to answer them as we go. We'll also at the end reserve some questions so that we can have our speakers answer them directly live as well. This session will be around an hour and 15, maximum an hour and a half, just for your reference. So let's finally kick things off by welcoming, let me see if she is online already. I don't think so. So maybe we can start with our second speaker, as our first speaker has not yet joined the webinar. I'm going to give her a little bit more time, and we're going to jump to Jukka, who is the director of PrintoCent, and will certainly have very interesting findings to share with us on the industry roadmap and the perspective for open. Oh, Colette is here. Jukka, I'm really sorry.
No problem.
Let's give Colette the first speaker slot. I wasn't actually being able to see her online, but she's here. So we are going to welcome Colette Maloney from the European Commission as our first speaker. Colette is the head of unit for microelectronics and photonics within DG Connect, the European Commission's department responsible for developing, and this I have to read, a digital single market to generate smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth in Europe. Colette has joined the Commission more than 25 years ago, where she has led several initiatives and units. I have actually met Colette about 2 years ago in Brussels, back in December 2018, when her unit organized a workshop to collect feedback from different stakeholders in the field of flexible and printed electronics. This dialogue was important to serve as input for the Commission's definition of future strategies, plans, funding schemes. And really, we have to say this up front. The EC has funded and supported this space of flexible and printed electronics for many years, Several PrintoCent members have been and are still actively involved in EU-funded initiatives today. Colette, a big thank you for your availability for being here. It's really an honor to have you. We're very curious to hear what is your current perspective on the space and what might be on the Commission's pipeline for the future. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ines. Can you hear me first of all? Sorry, I had difficulties, but I think it's okay now.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. We
so
cannot see you.
I'll put on my video. Sorry, and I'll share the screen. So I'm going to give a slide presentation, and I'll try and be. I've quite a lot of slides, but I'll try and move through them. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, virtually. Sorry that I'm just quickly trying to, I hope it's the right screen. Yeah. You don't see the screen? Or do you?
We see it.
We see your screen. Yes, we do see your screen.
Okay, great. So I'll quickly start. The difficulties, I don't see what you see. I'm sorry. Do you see my first slide? Yeah, I see it. It's very small. I think you do.
We see your second slide now.
Or second slide. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it. So I'll just start the presentation very quickly, and just to put it in a little bit of context. What I want to mention just as first and foremost is the whole area of flexible and printed electronics. When we're talking about European priorities, we see the main areas to which a country contributes being the European Green Deal and making Europe fit for a digital age. So essentially the two, our green and digital transition. A third dimension that I will add to that is the industrial strategy for Europe. We are in the process of putting together an industrial strategy, which will be announced probably the end of March. I think the most important element I haven't highlighted on the slide, though, is to ensure the resilience of strategic value chains in Europe. And I can say just at a sort of a high level that microelectronics and all that is microelectronics will be a key part of that industrial strategy. And the importance of being able to control value chains is that it'll help us. If we have control of our value chains in Europe, if we have strong, robust value chains, we can we can ensure that digital and green transitions in Europe that we can be able to shape them better in Europe. So that's the importance of having strong value chains in Europe. Flexible and printed electronics, of course, is part of the microelectronics value chains and something we hope to highlight. Flexible printed electronics, we know that there are enormous contributions to which it can make, in particular to the Green Deal in Europe, both in terms of the products and also the production itself, the manufacturing process. One of the advantages, of course, is that the technologies are relatively new, many of them, so they can be developed with sustainability in mind. In our projects and in general, they can be applied across a wide range of applications, going from automotive through health, environment, agriculture, aerospace, defense, digital industry, energy, etc. I think we all know that. We've been supporting projects for many years. beginning with lighting and displays, I think, broadening to health applications and broadening further out now to automotive, digital industry. But we would like to put an emphasis on future into covering a full spectrum of applications. In terms of the future, yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Would you be able to put your presentation on full screen mode?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I should have let you know.
Just see if I can. I'm really bad at this. Oops. Fit to window.
At the bottom.
Oh yeah, there is. I'm sorry. Yeah,
usually it shows up. Yeah, on the right.
No, that's not it. I don't think this is. Nope. Sorry about this.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Just move forward. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still not really. I haven't mastered this at all.
No, that's fine. Just keep going. I'm sorry for interrupting.
So in terms of programs, I think you've seen some of this slide before. Probably the main thing that has changed are the numbers on the slide because they've now been finalized. So there are 3 main programs and probably 3 in digital and probably 2 of interest to the audience here. First and foremost, Horizon Europe, which is our program for investing in research and innovation, where we have close to 76 million euros has now been agreed. And the Digital Europe program, which is 6.7 million euros. So what I intend is to go into a little bit more depth in those programs. If I talk about Horizon Europe, first of all, I'll just mention that we have a possibility, that proposers have a possibility to submit programs straight to the Commission via our normal process, which is a work program put together by the Commission. I have a couple of slides on the areas that are will be important for proposers. We also have a joint undertaking, which is called the KDT, Key Digital Technologies Joint Undertaking, and that is the successor to the current Excel joint undertaking. The main thing I will say about that at this point, the KDT joint undertaking, is that in the past it's been a very bottom-up program. So there's been a very broad research agenda put together by industry associations. In the future, and that's from 2021 onwards, the Commission together with the member states will be setting priorities for proposers. We are just beginning the process now of setting priorities for 2021. And I can say here that I would urge you as companies and institutes to make your preferences known to your national authorities there. We will do the best, I will say, on the Commission side for flexible and printed electronics, because it is an area that we are trying to build up ourselves. So hopefully that will help, anchor this topic better in the joint undertaking. The joint undertaking will have considerable amount of funding over 7 years. We expect to have probably 50% more than we did for Excel. It will also, so probably of the order of 1.8 billion euros over 7 years, and that will be matched then by member states. We also have the Digital Europe program, and that's mostly of interest for digital innovation hubs. We want to encourage, and we are in dialogue with national authorities across Europe to set up an IPCEI. It stands for Important Project of Common European Interest on Microelectronics. You may have seen a declaration that was adopted and signed by 18 member states just in December last year, which was on microprocessors and semiconductor technologies. But it basically, by signing up to the declaration, member states were attesting their support for financial support, actually, for a future such project. A lot of emphasis on processor technology, but it will be broader than that. So there's an opportunity there also to have activities on flexible and printed electronics. I will skip through the rest because the time is a bit short. I said I would quickly deep dive into the work program, just to point where the opportunities will be arising. So I'm sorry, I skipped a slide. So Horizon Europe program will be made up of a number of pillars, 3 pillars. Under pillar 2, there's a number of clusters, and the key cluster is digital industry and space. Under digital industry and space, there are 2 so-called destinations. One is Destination 4, where you can find activities on electronics, and the other is Destination 1, where there are activities on manufacturing, and which is also quite relevant for, I think, people in this audience. We can make the slides available. For the moment, I'm just putting on the screen quite quickly again the draft texts. They have yet to be agreed. We are in discussions internally and in the commission and together with member states. But you can see that we have specifically got activities or envisaged activities on printed and flexible electronics in the work program. The keywords are all here, and because of the time, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just pointing to where they are. I mentioned, so the first one was in Destination 4. The second 2, which are more related to processes and manufacturing, are in Destination 1. And again, I'm really just going quickly through the slides. I mentioned the KDT joint undertaking. I also refer to the fact that the work program is based on a very broad strategic agenda, but the industry associations who have put it together have consulted the community at large, and there is scope again to do research projects on both from the device side and from the process and the manufacturing side in printed and flexible electronics. And as I said, we at the public side of the public authorities want to set priorities each year, which will make it different from the past and not so wide open. One of the things, just to differentiate slightly between these 2 main instruments which we have for research, the work program on the one hand, where we have Destinations 1 and 4, and the KDT joint undertaking on the other hand. Generally, what we publish directly in the work program is slightly lower TRLs, where industry certainly hopefully has an interest, but we often see projects led by research institutes, for example, for academia, whereas in the joint undertaking usually covers we expect industry already to be making quite substantial investments, so it's more industrially oriented. That's the main difference between the 2 programs. just to mention also quickly, we have this so-called Digital Europe program. It covers a number of, first of all, it's new. Second of all, it's focused mostly on deployment activities. And for this, although it covers areas ranging from cybersecurity through AI to high performance computing, also advanced digital skills, and we will be putting money into microelectronics here generally, but it does not mean that flexible electronics is not eligible, the contrary. What is probably of interest is this area here called digital transformation and interoperability, where we see the setup of digital innovation hubs. Again, I'm just referring to opportunities. I'm not going to go into details on the slides because I know time is a little bit limited, and I just want to highlight the opportunities that there are. But of course, we are available for question and can be contacted directly, at any point in time. Yeah, this was just a little bit more on the digital innovation hubs. One of the characteristics of digital innovation hubs is they're set up across member states. We expect, I think, every member state, to have 2 digital innovation hubs, at least. They're in different types of areas, and there's usually a match between smart specialization in a region and the digital innovation hub being set up in a particular region. With that, I'll come to the last slide, and apologies for rushing through everything, but the idea is just to give you a flavor of what's coming up later in the year. So just to highlight and conclude with, with the fact that for us, at least, flexible and printed electronics is a strategic area. We would really want to encourage the community to submit proposals, to contact us directly if you have any questions or queries about proposals. In the past, I've mentioned that setting up manufacturing activities. It's still something we want to pursue with the community. We want to look at gaps in the value chain. That's going to be really important. So we're happy to hear your opinions there. Important also, I've mentioned digital transformation, green transition. Important will be mobilizing investments as much as we can. There's the opportunity, which is quite novel, in the form of an IPCEI, which is being set up, as I mentioned. There are opportunities not just to develop, just for devices, but also for production, manufacturing, etc. Circular economy, Green Deal, very important. Do keep it in mind in your thinking. And there's also the opportunity to address skills. So I hope I didn't take too long, and I hope I didn't rush too much either. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you for sharing such interesting information and eye-opening information with the community. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, so Colette, if you could stop sharing your screen,
yeah,
please. Thank you, and I will share mine. All right, and so we do proceed now with the webinar, and we're going to have the director of PrintoCent, Jukka Jätinen, talking to us about key findings of PrintoCent industry roadmap. So really, PrintoCent is putting together a roadmap for this space of printed intelligence, and they're reaching out to their members to get key insights about what their needs are, and this is what Jukka is going to tell us about. The floor is yours, Jukka.
Thank you, Ines. Could you stop sharing your screen so I can?
There we go.
Okay. So, like this, can you see my screen?
Very well. Very well.
Okay, good. So, welcome also behalf of me to the second webinar series of together 7 different webinars. My name is Jukka Jaatinen. I'm the director of PrintoCent, and shortly introduce you to PrintoCent and then go to today's topic, the industry roadmap and some key findings out of that work. So PrintoCent is 11 years old organization, a cluster with more than 100 professionals working in the research, prototyping and scaling up services which we are offering for the industry. Our aim is to commercialize the research results, and of course we are accelerating joint development of the activities of our members. So far, we have created more than 30 startups. We have collected 50 million euro investments to the industry, and altogether in the Oulu area, we have more than 500 people working in the SMEs and in research. We have also participated to many EU-funded projects, as you can see from the picture, more than 30 projects related to the printed electronics. Our strong goal for the next 4 years is to open the development and manufacturing hub, meaning the open fab to Oulu area with 100 million euro investment to the companies and to the research and to the education. We have a different size of cluster members, starting from the startups and the large-scale companies, more than 40 members in our cluster. We have a very nice pilot factory concept. We can offer any kind of services related to the printers and not going too deeply inside to those, but it's really the big scale pilot factory we have in our premises. We organize different kind of events and activities like industry seminars, innovation contents, webinar series, pitching sessions, and of course cluster meetings for our member companies. We have also published a handbook about the printed electronics. We published the second edition a year ago. There is more than 500 downloads already. So it has been very successful book written by our industry members and of course by VTT and the local universities. You can find that from our web page. Then how we are doing in the Oulu area. There is information collected about the printed electronics related companies. So the turnover has been rising quite well. And also the future shows that it will continue the raising, and the companies are doing relatively well with their plans in the future. So that was shortly what PrintoCent is today. Then to the topic of today. So the first findings of the PrintoCent industry roadmap. It's not public yet, but it will be published to our members in the beginning of March. But just tell to all of you some first findings as an appetizer of the roadmap. So we had a lot of discussion with our member companies related business cases, products, design, development and manufacturing value chains, human resources, skills and competencies, capacity growth enablers, and research and education which should be done and which will be support all the topics I just mentioned. For example, we discussed with all our member companies of all of those topics, and there is some examples about the design and manufacturing and needs out which came out of those discussions. So there's a lot of topics related to the product design, co-design, or product verification. And after all of these discussions and different topics, we created a map of those things. So we have a lot of information related everything regarding those topics. At the same time, we did some member profiles. It's not we have presented our members in the form of their company sizes, but we make the profiles of our members and find out that there is from the value chain, that there is members from each part of the value chain. We have members from the testing, machinery and tools providers, design and manufacturing companies, material component technology companies, and of course then the companies who have their products which have flex electronics inside, or they are totally flex products. And we even have a funding companies in our cluster. And with that huge work, there was some generic comments which I can publish. So of course the cluster is important. People can discuss together about different topics, and the companies feel that there is a strong focus in the cluster companies. Value chain is very important. It's a critical thing. And of course, more startups are needed, and agility for renewal of the value chains. So, for example, what is missing? So there is a wanted topics like in the technology wise. So it's transparency, it's a circulation, it's a sustainability. Also missing some design and development tools and skills. They are not clear. There is a certain rules, but we need some standardization and toolkits to do things. The maturity was the one topic. So maybe some companies are thinking that let's do it in the old way. So we have to push the technology and show to the customers that we really can do things with printed electronics. So what is missing also, we need more success stories, the volume products, and of course we need credibility for the customers and for the investors, so that they believe that we can do really nice products with high numbers of products by printed electronics. Key findings. We listed 7 of those. They are related to printed, hybrid and structural electronics, roll-to-roll assembly. It's about the value chain. Companies has to go upwards for the value chain to get the credibility, to know all things about the value chain and what is needed and what the customer is needing. About the HR topics, the machinery, process, design skills. Then about the rapid diagnostics applications and capacity building of it, very important nowadays. Of course, attracting new applications and the companies in the printed and hybrid and structural electronics. And of course, there will be a need for critical mass for design and manufacturing. I'm not going to open up each of them, just as an example. The first finding about the printed and hybrid and structural electronics. So there is a few success stories with fully printed products as well as printed hybrid products. We need more those. Also, first, structural electronics products are emerging in the market in form of injection molded structural electronics or in glass lamination products. We have components, they are existing, optics, flex electronics is existing, but there's a high variation in volumes and dimensions. Still, just few companies have experience of productization, so more lessons learned are needed. and we need a standardization and tools. That was just one example of the key findings. There is 6 others. There's a lot of information. Our roadmap will be published to the members in the March, and then there will be a public version also in the second part of the March, which will be published to everybody. Towards the open fab idea, which I just presented, the 7th key finding was the critical mass for design and manufacturing, and it's about the open fab with the strong EU level networking, which can be the answer for this finding. We will need, and our companies will need, this kind of unit to serve their needs in the area of printed electronics. We also will came out with the recommendations. There is several ones. There's just few examples, like we need more feasibility studies, we need joint marketing, we need education, we need research. Reliability is a very interesting topic and needed topic for the research. And then we need the open fab, the manufacturing side to serve the industry. And one idea is to get the EU hotspot in Oulu. And what does it mean with the recommendation? So that we have to establish open fab with a strong EU level cooperation. And why that? It's because the industry sees that there's still challenges how to realize all approaching new prototypes. There is a gaps in design, develop, and manufacturing services. So there is a need. We need a capacity. We need a value chain. We need skills. We need also funding. Maybe there's existing funding. There's a EU recovery fund, maybe in the use for this. We have received already 18 support letters from the companies from Finland and from other European countries to commit to the idea to publish the open fab, to be investors to it. And actually we have started the work. We will continue it. This year will be the planning year about the premises, the manufacturing lines, the partners, the service model. Next year's will be the preparation and running up the open fab, and our aim is to be in full operation in 2025. So we are going towards to 100 million investment. We want to raise our printed electronics employees from 500 to 1,000 employees in industry and research in the Oulu area. So that was shortly my presentation. I hope you have questions after the seminar, and please be free to contact me regarding this. And we are very proud to open you the whole roadmap later on this spring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jukka. That was a very interesting presentation with some common points to what we've heard before from Colette as well. And it's good to see that the opportunities are aligned with what the needs are in this space. So we now move on to our next speaker. Let me share my screen again.
Yep.
Okay, and our next speaker is Jaakko Lampele. Jaakko has been the CEO of Nordic Option Oy, which is a VC fund that invests in companies from northern Finland since 2016. Nordic Option has invested, for example, in Tactotech and Screamtech, 2 members of PrintoCent, and many other companies in the region. Jaakko will be sharing his experience on investing into printed intelligence. And let's see the perspective from an investor then. Over to you, Jaakko.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here. Well, I shortly tell you about the Nordic option and then the experiences from our investment targets. So now we have a 20 million euro fund and we have 8 million euro funding new home. Our area is in northern Finland. We are kind of aerial fund, and our investment size is from 0.5 million to 2.5 million. And we may do minority or majority investments. We syndicate and we may do buyout structures also. And then we have reserved 1 million for a little bit kind of a seed investments. We may do from 200,000 to 300,000 small companies which have already good growth and promising growth path. But anyway, the turnover should be few hundred thousands. So we are not a startup investor. We cannot invest if there is no turnover. But no other restrictions. But here is some selection criteria. There should be actualized growth and good growth opportunities in the future. There should be good competitive advantage. Something is it disruptive, like in printed electronics, something faster, better quality, or etc. There should be sufficient market and market growth possibility. Proven business model, competent and professional team. This is very crucial, and preferably protected IPR, patents, and so on. And international potential, and in printed electronics, it's always there. So in minimum, there should be few hundred thousand turnover, and technology should be validated by preferably several customers, and the reasonable valuation is many times an issue that the valuations have risen in late years because there is quite a lot of money in VC environment. So that, but to try to be reasonable in that sense. Nordic option, how we operate, we are active owners. We try to get clear targets and clear direction to the companies we invest in. We mainly influence to companies and their growth through quality board work, and we implement good management systems and leadership to our companies to ensure the growth. And here is a little bit more open about these issues, and of course all these balls include many details, but this is how we proceed with the companies we invest in. So printed intelligence as an investment target, all areas very good in this sense that this PrintoCent has done excellent work within this area, and thanks to its founding members, PrintoCent is alive. And it was interesting to see from Jukka's presentation that there is good progress in the companies altogether, as a counted turnover near 100 million. It's excellent. And we have been a member of PrintoCent from year 2016 when I started, and it has offered very valuable view to the companies within this sector, and there has been good progress within companies, and many companies start to be quite mature to investments and investment ready. And printed intelligence needs capital. There is a lot of different kinds of competencies needed. Jukka had a longer list in his presentation, but you have to know about materials, chemistry, electronics, production methods, production equipment, quality assurance, etc. So this is kind of good thing. You need capital, but of course the capital need might be quite big after all. And then R&D takes time and resources, and then investing in production is costly, and production methods and lines are more tailored to specific needs. There is not that often off-the-shelf solutions, so that takes time and effort. And if you still have money left of those, then the international sales takes the rest of the money when you build international sales channels and recruit salespersons over the continent. So this is good that money is needed, but then we have two companies. ScreenTech is one we invested in 2018. We invested in roll-to-roll production line 2019, and we are aiming to be the #1 in medical disposable electrodes in Nordics. And the sensor business is ramping up. We have very good customer pipeline there, and now in 2020 we invested in PP production, and we have very strong growth. We have personnel growth from 20 to 100 last year. Then the other one was Tactotech investment round 2019. It was a big financing round, over 20 million euros. Excellent company, competence in the company, strong patent portfolio, but extremely demanding and long technology validations done with world-class customers from automotive sector, and there are more and more world-leading customers licensing the Tactotech's IMSE technology. But excellent growth potential and a very interesting company. But pilot projects takes time and a long time frame to mass production phase. And the growth plans of the after all, growth plans of the companies are nearly always quite optimistic. So have to be realistic to verify that, are those plans doable, and how are things proceeding. Maturity of the technology should have been verified with several customers, not only one, preferably more customers. And pilot projects take time, and there might be some setbacks in various stages of the projects. And although there is big customers, it's interesting to have, and there is big opportunity, but many times it's longer time to continuous business. And financing should be secured long enough to take a lot of capital to ensure that if there is setbacks in the progress, you can continue anyway. And the sales orientation and customer orientation should be in very good level. I think I took my time. Here is our other portfolio companies, just to show you. We have 8 companies now, and we are seeking new companies. Our latest exit was Speki. We sold to Konica Minolta in December last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Jaakko, for your perspective, for your investor perspective. And we now shift to a different geography, and we welcome Giorgio Dell'Erba from Fleep Technologies. Giorgio is the CEO and founder of Fleep Technologies. This is a relatively new startup, as far as I know.
Yep.
That joined PrintoCent last year. So it will be very interesting to know more about Fleep and understand how and why you have decided to join PrintoCent. Tell us more, Giorgio.
Yes, thank you very much. Can I share my screen over?
Yes. So, Jaakko, if you could stop sharing.
Yes, I don't find.
Yeah, I will override.
Is it okay now?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for having us here. And it was extremely interesting to be part of this first webinar of 2021, hoping that is a better year than 2020. I will talk you about Fleep Technologies and why we entered into the network of PrintoCent. But before starting with that, I want to tell you a bit more about what is Fleep Technologies and what we are currently developing. So we are a startup, as Ines correctly said. We have been established in May 2019, but we really started operation in May 2020. We are a university spin-off from the Italian Institute of Technology, and specifically the institute that is based in Milan. Italian Institute of Technology is a large network of research centers distributed in all Italy, but with headquarters in Genova. So we recently raised a seed round of about €1 million to start the operation. We are a strong technical team. Let's say 4 out of 5 are PhD, either in electronics or material science or physics. And you will understand why also, because as was previously correctly said, this kind of technology really requires very various and different knowledge from and backgrounds from who works on that. So what Fleep Technologies develops is fully printed integrated circuits and systems. And if you're here, probably you know a bit about already about printed electronics and what's the good of it and what's the bad of it. But we are developing a technology that is mostly based on organic field effect transistors, and we have more than 8 years of research as a background before becoming a spin-off and bringing this technology to market. And we are employing a fully organic stack with fully printed devices. And our final goal is to get rid completely of the assembly process and try to integrate in printed systems as many processes as possible. And removing the assembly step, it's in our vision pretty important. And for this reason, we are developing what we call a printed integrated system platform that is, of course, focusing on our basic know-how of fully printed integrated circuits, but of course wants to integrate many other devices in it. And I think this is a key point to the real success of printed electronics, and having most of the part printed is extremely important. And in our vision, it makes much more sense to have everything printed than assembled separately. And of course, as you may be aware, organic field effect transistor technology is not a technology that is comparable to the standard silicon performance. And for this reason, communication up to today is not yet available. But just to give you a brief idea of what is for us the platform that we are developing, we want to make of electronics not something that is application specific, but we are, let's say, rewriting the electronics building blocks so that can be realized into a fully printed manner. And of course, this means integrating digital electronics, analog electronics, in order to be able to integrate multiple sensors that are either printed or not, and of course, many other different devices. And we are developing this whole platform, of course, of these components that you see here on the screen. Some of them are already developed, some are in development, but we are going there. So the stack that actually we are proposing to the market currently is a fully organic and printed stack that can operate down to 3 volts with a switching frequency that may vary between 10 kilohertz and 3 megahertz. We can vary a lot the kind of substrate that we're employing, and we can go from 1 micron substrate up to very thick substrates. Specifically what we are employing is a CMOS process. So we have both P-type and N-type organic semiconductor for our transistors that in the end turn out to be pretty well bendable as well. And so what we are focusing on currently is the development of standalone systems that are completely self-sufficient, I will say. This is just an example, but the idea is to integrate electronic circuits together with power supplies, flexible displays, and sensors to create new systems and new application for the electronics market. And of course, we have in hand what is a pretty horizontal technology, but as a first move, we are going into what are biomedical devices and wearable devices for continuous monitoring. And of course, smart packaging is a pretty interesting area to start developing since today. But let's say the main concept that we want to show is that not all the objects need to be connected to become smart. And this is something that now we are not used to anymore, because having smartphones and having connectivity everywhere, we not anymore understand that objects can be smart, and what are now and today objects that you could call dumb, for real can become smart with a very little of electronics and some smart systems. And here is an example of what we are developing. This is, for example, a dose counting label for metered dose inhalers. This is a whole integrated system that actually can go onto a canister for metered dose inhalers. So it integrates printed battery, display, a touch sensor, force sensor, and all the electronics that is needed in order to count doses. And the clear value of this is that the integration of such system is very easy and is integrated as a last manufacturing step, and this eliminates a strong struggle for the contract manufacturer who produce generally those counters. Another application we are developing is an active period after opening label, in which we can, from the opening of a package, say how much time has passed. And for this reason, this may become extremely interesting in some markets like cosmetic market. Of course, food packaging will be extremely interesting as a market for this kind of application, but the price tag for that is not yet, cannot be met with this kind of technology at this stage. Another aspect of this specific application is that you can integrate sensors and integrate directly in hardware what are parachment models for the substance that you have in your package. And so you can change dynamically the label, the date that is on the label. And So just to give you a brief idea of what our circuit looks like, we kind of for internal reason, we revisited what was one of the demonstrator that was at our last, I will say, in-person conference was LOPEC 2019. And it was a demonstrator for ideally for a random number generator, but we wanted to make it fully printed. And in this case, we have all the electronics to generate a pseudo casual numbers. And so pseudo random numbers. And these are, of course, all the electronics that is integrated. The only missing part here is the battery. But it's just to give you a brief sample of how our electronics looks like in the end, and what can look in other kind of products. So coming back to what was the beginning of this talk, as a startup, we need, of course, to have a high-profile support network. And when I was first introduced to PrintoCent, I really liked the spirit and the fact that there is a strong support and a strong cooperation between all the partners. And this is extremely important. And it is important for a startup, not only because you can identify suppliers and partners, but also because it's extremely useful to understand what are the industry trends, where everything is moving. And this is pretty important for us. As a small company, we need to be very fast in adapting to what is the market. And it's not always easy with limited resources to stay behind all of this. And of course, a network like PrintoCent, like for example, the roadmap drafting, is extremely useful for us. Of course, what we are looking for as a startup in a network like this is partners for projects, partners to define use cases, of course, prospective clients, but in general is to put our tech to service of the network. And we deeply believe that printed electronics can become an extremely important market, but of course it still needs development, and this development can only be done with a joint effort from all the players. And with this, I have finished my talk. Feel free to contact me at this address or just book a chat with me at this link. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jojo. That was very interesting. Also, to re-emphasize why PrintoCent can be important, not only for large corporations, but especially for startups as well. Okay, and last but not least, we will hear from Tapio Fabricius, a professor from the University of Oulu. Tapio has been involved in PrintoCent since the very beginning of the network. He will bring us a perspective from the academic education space. And maybe you can also tell us a little bit about what activities PrintoCent is involved in that can create more trained, highly skilled human resources for this field, because companies really need people that are knowledgeable in printed electronics right now. The floor is yours, Tapio.
Thank you very much, Ines. So hello from my behalf as well. And as Ines introduced, I'm working as a professor in the University of Oulu, and I'm also the head of the research unit in the university. I have been also active in the PrintoCent community, so that I have been the representative person of the operational team in PrintoCent. So I have a long history in the PrintoCent community. So if you think about that, the progress of the technology looks pretty good, and there is more and more companies who are going to commercialize the printed electronics technology. And it means that in the long run, we need more and more experienced people. And in that respect, we have done quite a significant investment in terms of the personnel we have at the university and at VTT. So we have hired new professors, tenure track professors, to make sure that after a few years we have more and more people who has expertise in the field of printed electronics. So there is professors which are dedicated for the printed photonics, printed electronics, material simulations, and then the biomedical applications of printed electronics or printed technology. So we are now having people who are going to experience or generate experience in these various fields to make sure that we have people once they are needed. So in that respect, we have because you have to be in time. If you start too late, you will not be having enough people at the end. And if you know how the university system works, basically these professors are supposed to have their own team, and they are supposed to have their own courses. So that's the way we can make sure that we are able to transfer the knowledge for the people. Then another aspect I would like to notice is the fact that most of you have maybe heard about the PrintoCent pilot factory, but we have been also active in terms of a little bit expanding the network in terms of infrastructure. And actually we managed to get so-called national infrastructure roadmap status from the Academy of Finland, which is a kind of national status to provide more funding for the research infrastructure development. And in this case, there is basically the base or the ground of the infra is the same as the PrintoCent pilot factory, but in addition to that, we have also infra from the University of Tampere and Åbo Academy. So we believe that that's an excellent way to improve our infrastructure, especially in respect of the scientific goals we have. So these two things, we have done quite significant investments to the personnel we have, and in the future we will have a lot of resources to further extend our infrastructure. And now I will tell you a little bit about two different type of applications fields we are now actively working, which are relatively new in field of PrintoCent. So one application field is printed solid-state batteries. And why we are interested in these topics is simply the fact that the demand for these type of batteries, mobile batteries, is huge. And in order to be able to provide something valuable for the need, we believe that the printed batteries is actually very promising approach. And especially here in Finland, we are in an excellent situation what comes to the battery industry, because we have a very good natural resources. So we have those basic materials we need, and then we have an excellent battery chemistry industry in Finland. So if we combine this material expertise with the expertise of the printed electronics, we believe that this is an excellent opportunity to extend or combine the knowledge and make a new business out of it. So why we believe that printed batteries are a good option? So there is one aspect which most of you might know already, and it's the fact that if you think about the basic battery structure, it's just a stack of layers. There is anode, cathode, and electrode between them, and that's very kind of suitable structure for printing. So we believe that we are capable to upscale the production for very high volumes using the roll-to-roll approach. Then there is another aspect which is making the printing a very interesting approach for battery making, is the fact that I will not go to the details due to the lack of time, but if you look at the key parameters describing the battery performance, so how much energy you can store and how quickly you can charge and discharge the battery. So basically these both key parameters can be kind of tuned, or they can optimized by utilizing printing technology. So we can make a little bit more complex structures, such as adding layers, or we can make also the different architectures, which are kind of non-conventional but very suitable for printing. So that's another opportunity which we believe that makes sense in terms of making printed batteries. So what we have done so far, we have been working with printed solid electrolyte batteries about a year now, and we have 2 ongoing projects. And so we are still in the early phase, I would say, but we have managed to make some printed parts already. So we are capable to make a printed anode, printed cathode, and printed electrolytes, and we can make some sort of functional battery cells. So all these key elements in the battery can be printed. We know it already. So the biggest obstacle at the moment is the solid electrolyte, and it's mostly coming from the material itself. So the ion conductivity of the electrolyte material is usually the limiting factor. So most probably, if someone knows good electrolyte, we can print it, but that's the biggest challenge at the moment. But if you think about that, how much or how many of this type of cells we need in order to make one electric car, if I remember correctly, for example, in case of Tesla, they have something like 7,000 these type of battery cells in one car. So you can imagine that if we are going to have more and more those electric cars, we need a tremendous number of new battery cells. And that's why we believe that printing is a good choice. Then another topic we have been recently working with. So basically we get the decision for the project in the beginning of this year. So I cannot show any results yet, but I can just give you an insight that what we are planning to do. So we believe that printed technology will be quite nice opportunity or enabler for the food chain applications or needs. So if you think about the food chain in general, it's actually very complex chain of different things, and it will be having an influence on our everyday lives. Whatever you do, you need to eat food and so on, and that's the way you become a part of the food chain. And many of these, key parts of the chain are having a needs and where the printed electronics will be having a role in the future, we believe. In this project we have started in the beginning of this year, we will mostly focus on the food safety issues. So what we will do in this project, so we have 2 or 3 different cases, and 2 of them are related to the disinfecting and making hygienic surfaces. So utilizing the LED lighting and photoactive polymers, we can, or photoactive coatings, we can make surfaces which can be cleaned by the light. And that's very interesting to make sure that instead of using a lot of chemicals, we can make a continuous cleaning of the surfaces. And it's easy to understand that's the way to make the food chain more safe and clean. And then there is a little bit different application which is related to algae production. So we are trying to make a kind of chamber in which we can make the production of the algae, and that's the way we believe that we can start to work with the players on the food chain. So let's see how it goes, but that's very interesting new field of research for us. So I was trying to be short for today, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tapio, for your perspective. It's really been great to hear from different stakeholders that are active in this space. Thank you all of our speakers. I am going to share my screen with you again to let you know, before we go into the Q&A, to let you know that there will be 6 more sessions in this webinar series. Please save these dates or go to PrintoCent's website to get more information about these sessions. The next one is already next week, 1 week from today, January 26th, and it will focus on advanced manufacturing. There will also be 2 sessions that will focus on EU-funded initiatives on the Decochrome project and also the Smarties initiative. So please stay tuned to those as well. And just save the dates, mark your calendars, and make sure you show up to this webinar series and sessions. Okay, we've had a few questions being posted on our Q&A space here in this Zoom. And some of them already have been answered, namely by Yuka. So some of them were directed directly to PrintoCent and some of these findings from the roadmap. There was one particularly interesting question that I would like to go back to and maybe have Colette participating in answering this question. So this is really about the battery directive, the recently published draft of the battery directive. Dr. Michael Correll asked this question. So it seems like the recently published draft of the battery directive doesn't differentiate between small printed batteries for IoT and, for example, other more conventional batteries for bicycles. So, and it requires separate collection and recycling of the batteries, which means disassembly of the printed electronics. And the question is, doesn't that render energy autonomous printed electronics devices nearly useless? How could we get around that and start differentiating printed batteries from the more conventional batteries in future versions of the directive and the regulations that are in place? So if Colette could give us a few words about that, would you be available, Colette?
Hi, yes, I'm still here. Thank you for the question. I understand the question. I think it's very clear. What I have to admit, I don't know very well, because the Commission obviously covers so many different types of activities, is the battery directive itself. So to be honest, I think it's something to look in, that we can look into and come back. I don't know how we can come back, maybe directly. I missed the name of the...
We can get you the contact of Dr. Michael Correll. Definitely.
Yeah, okay. Because we can take that discussion offline, if you don't mind. We can look into it. I'd like to check the date of the battery directive. I can check who in the Commission is responsible.
Absolutely, yes. And I would say that batteries are certainly one of the devices that where this is more present, because the regulations are so tight for the conventional batteries. From a regulatory standpoint, I think this was highlighted also in Yuka's presentation, for example. Printed electronics still needs more regulations and specific certifications in order to be successful on a commercial scale. So definitely very interesting point to bring up.
Okay, could I just add one thing to that, because it occurred to me as well. I mentioned at the very beginning of my presentation something called the Circular Electronics Action Plan, I think it's called. And we're just beginning work on that now. So in the context, we look at the planning for that, but that is the sort of opportunity that we have actually to instigate changes or shortcomings in current legislation. Because, yeah, it's an important part of the Green Deal, the circular, did I say circular economy action plan? I can't even remember, but electronics is a big part of that. That's what I want to say.
Yes.
So in that context, we can take a look as well. But I can come back more specifically with dates, timing, etc.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Colette. We will take it offline then. Okay, one last question that hasn't yet been answered. It was directed to Tapio. Did you consider spatial ALD for printing electrolyte materials?
So far, we have been mostly playing with screen printing because it seems to be working quite well. But it depends on, there is, as I said, we are mostly having troubles with the electrolyte material itself. And depending on the material we choose, we might use ALD as well. But at the moment, we haven't done any trials.
Okay, thank you for your answer on that very specific technical question. I think most of the questions have been answered in writing, all of them, and we're just under our hour and a half. So I think we're ready to close our session. I'd like to end by thanking everyone, our speakers, especially for being here, our viewers for having joined. And if you want to know more about PrintoCent and become more involved with printed intelligence, please go to PrintoCent's website. There's great resources available and a great community to join. Get in touch with Jukka. I can show you, again, my slides in order for you to have the contacts also available. There we go. Here they are. And follow PrintoCent on social media. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure to be here. I'll see you next time.